All right, here we are, flying from Santa Fe, New Mexico, to Tucson, Arizona. Santa Fe Kilo Sierra Alpha Foxtrot to Tucson Kilo Tango Uniform Sierra. Descending out of flight level 300, right now down to 16,000. Plan is to land at runway 11, ILS runway at Tucson. I'll show you something interesting that's happened. Might be a little bit of a glitch, but we'll check it out. But in the meantime, before we get to that, let's go ahead and enter our ILS frequency. Nav 111.7. Already determined this from looking at the approach plates. VOR frequency on nav 2 we'll go ahead and do at 116.0. The VOR DME is southeast of the airport slightly. Let's see if we're getting any information yet. Bearing 1 is the ILS, no data, as to be expected. Bearing 2, 83.2 nautical miles from Tucson. Oh, good. Always good to see. Descending right now at 1,800 feet per minute to our next waypoint. We're 105 nautical miles from the airport, 19 minutes at our current airspeed. So let me show you something that happened, or something I noticed. Take a look. All screwy. See what I mean? So let's see what we can do about fixing this. It should not be doing this. It should look like this, not like this. So let's go ahead and take a look at our flight plan. Should be headed right now, according to a ForeFlight app, towards, let's see, towards, sorry, TACUB, TACUB. We should be going there right now. Let's try a couple things here to fix this problem. And let's do what we always do before we screw around. And that's lock our heading in place. So we'll check our flight plan. See what's weird about this is it shows us headed to take up next, but that's not what's happening here. Approach is showing on at 11 left. That's correct. Arrival Dingo 5. I don't need it. Interesting. Let's selected an arrival protocol for us, which is weird. Well, we're fortunate today in that we have good weather. Well, let's think here. Let's take a look. Dingo 5, transition GBN, PXR T. Well, got all sorts of issues here presenting themselves. Let's go ahead and try removing this. Let's see what that did. No, it's okay. Just remember, we don't freak out, we don't panic. We got perfect weather. So we're gonna be just fine. Everybody stay calm. feet. Down to 6,000. There, Whiskey Bravo.
Descend and maintain 6,000 feet. Expect ILS runway 11 left approach by a lift transition.
Cleared to what?
Whiskey Bravo.
Cleared to Lipte. L-I-P-T-E. See, isn't that interesting? You heard what I heard, right? We were just cleared to Lipte. So all this nonsense, we don't have to worry about it. So let's try something. We do have a mountain in front of us, so let's keep an eye on that. Let's try something here. Direct. L-I-P-T-E. Enter. Activate. Okay, good. That's what I wanted to see. So let's see what happened. Take a look. Now, if I press nav, what will happen? Let's find out. Ah, very good. Okay, now, after... Oh boy, this thing's a mess. Well, let's fly direct Lipte. I know that I need to be no lower than 6,000 feet at Lipte. And what I wish I could figure out is how to just clear all this crap and just manually input it. There has to be a way to do that. After Lipte is Wason, then calls. This is all correct, but it's all screwy on this approach.
Albuquerque Center JetBlue 2800 with its flight level 350 descending 11,000 feet.
We're doing okay. Oh boy, that's pretty. I'm glad we have perfect weather. And don't forget, we do have ILS info. We have ILS info. Remember, we already entered our ILS frequency, 111.7. In theory, when we get to Lipte, we should be able to activate that and just fly this approach. The approach plate shows Lipte, Wason, calls, Posib. Now just remember, we're not doing anything revolutionary here. We were cleared to Lipte. Listen to the air traffic control instructions. We were cleared to Lipte. And right now, what I'm doing is flying direct to Lipte. So here's my plan. It's just buggy and it's not what I want to see. Here's my plan. Right now, you see how this says nav source FMS? Right now, the nav, the autopilot, is flying us direct to Lipte. See this? It was going to do this weird, goofy thing. We're not doing that anymore. Turn right, avoid these mountains. That's good. Flying this line direct to Lipte. I'm going to make a left turn when I get to Lipte, and basically just intercept the ILS and land on runway 11. Again, the best laid plans of mice and men, but that seems to be good. Seems like it. Just looking at the approach plate, the map, it looks like it should work without any issue. Showing us 68 nautical miles to the airport right now. Be slightly more than that since we're actually going to turn left when we get to Lipte. That'll add a few miles. I actually show 5 nautical miles between Lipte and the next waypoint. Between Lipte and Wason is 5 miles, and between Wason and Calls is 2.3 nautical miles, and Calls to Posib or Pokib is 5.2 miles. And then the last stretch here is 5.7 between Posib and Tucson is 5.7 nautical miles. So I actually much prefer this direct to Lipti approach versus going over this stuff. According to the approach plate, we need to be at Lipti no lower than 6,000 feet. At Wason, 5,500. Calls, 5,000. Posib, 4,600. This will be interesting to see how air traffic control handles this. I'm actually flying exactly what they told me to fly. Now keep in mind, the original plan had me going up here to Jacob through this weird, screwed up approach. But you heard them say you're cleared direct to Lipti. So I went to the autopilot and told it to fly direct to Lipti. And as I said, my plan upon reaching Lipti, which at this point is not, I'm not getting any accurate information about its distance. Take a look. Well, I'm seeing that it's 31.6 nautical miles away, okay? Lipti, 31.4 nautical miles. But take a look at this. This is showing Lipti is 287 nautical miles from our current position, which is ridiculous because this is showing us at only 30 miles. So this is, it's okay. We're always discovering new bugs. This thing's got more bugs than the Roach Motel. But right now, I much prefer this approach to one over these mountains. In perfect desert autumn weather like this, the weather's not really an issue. It's just the turbulence. And we could not be at the altitude. Right now we're showing we're at 8,600 feet. We couldn't be at 8,600 feet over here. So maybe that's why ATC cleared us direct to Lipti.
Delta Tree Whiskey Bravo, contact Tucson approach on ONE 25.1.
25.1, Delta Whiskey Bravo.
125.1 for Delta Tree Whiskey Bravo.
So this information I'm getting is not correct. It's showing us 291 nautical miles from our next waypoint, which is obviously conflicting with this, which is showing us 25 miles. You heard what they just said, 2983. We will go ahead and set that. 2983. Set that on our standby altimeter as well. Anyway, you heard her just say it. Take a look. Look. Continue to Lipti as planned, which is exactly what we're doing. So we're following our descent instructions precisely. Shallow at our descent rate, however, because since we're 23 miles from where we are here to Lipti here, and according to the approach plate, we need to, we may not be lower than 6,000 feet. And again, she's not telling us to descend to 6,000 feet by coincidence. That 6,000 feet descent order is because, according to the approach plate, you must be no lower than 6,000 feet at Lipti. The thing is, why she's telling me to expedite it, I don't know. Because we're not going to have any problem whatsoever getting to 6,000 feet in the next 20.7 nautical miles. In any event, I'll set it at 500 feet per minute descent. And take a look, if you now notice, the aircraft is receiving ILS information, which is extremely encouraging. Wow, those are some mountains. Settle down, honey. Anyway, you see here we're receiving on nav 1 25.9 nautical miles. That's the ILS frequency. Nav 2 25.8 25.8 nautical miles. That's the VOR DME frequency. All perfectly normal. Showing us now 17 nautical miles from Lipty, where we'll make our left turn and intercept the ILS. Beautiful desert evening. Really, you see why this area of the country attracts people in the at this time of year. The weather's perfect. It's clear. It's pleasant. There's no thunderstorms. There's no nothing. It's gorgeous. There's our airport.
Please expedite your descent to 6,000 feet.
I suspect that's our airport. There's another airport right there, but I think that's ours. Again, now 15 nautical miles from Lipty, where we were told to go. These mountains out here, I suspect we'll make a left turn prior to them. Why do I think that? Well, if you look at our terrain map, any terrain you see is beyond Lipty. It's flat as a pancake between us and Lipty. I also see a river feature. This right here, you see this? That's that. It really does pay to try to just stay situationally aware at all times. We're 21.8 nautical miles from the airport. I'm pretty sure that's us. Let's take a look and see if we see any other. Yes. So KDMA and KTUS. So this one on the left is KDMA, and that's KTUS Tucson. I don't know what KDMA is. We're level at 6,000 feet right now, and make sure we don't lose too much airspeed just because we've leveled out. We'll be told to descend, I presume, to 5,500 next, once we get to Lipty. I was checking what KDMA is. KDMA Airport. That is Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. Okay, so we're level at 6,000 feet right now. Airspeed looks good, 193. Gonna make a left turn in a second. There's the Air Force Base. We're not gonna land there. We get in trouble. Almost to Lipty now, just 7.8 nautical miles away. There's us. There's Lipty. What I'm going to do is switch our FMS, our nav source, over to nav 1. But before I do screw around with anything, again, I'm going to sync heading, activate heading, switch this to nav 1, and switch over to nav. You see this turn green now? This will enable the aircraft to begin its left turn, as it is now, and intercept that ILS frequency. All very good. This green line right here will begin moving this way as this moves this way, and eventually this green line, called a course deviation indicator, will be lined up with this green arrow up here at the top and this green line down here at the bottom. You'll see this will move left as we move to intercept our approach path. So everything's going well. I'm going to start slowing a little bit more. Turn on our initial separator while I'm thinking about it, but we'll go through that on our Gifley checklist. Things are looking really good. We're showing 16 miles from the airport, 6,000 feet. We have not been instructed to descend, and so that'll be interesting to see what happens there. We may end up getting forgotten, but we know. Well, there you go. That's exactly what I predicted. Down to 5,500 now. There's a problem. So again, she's not just picking that number from randomly. That 5,500 is the altitude we need to be at. Waist. Yeah, right there. Okay. So we're looking really good right now. Get on the ground here. There's the airport.
Geometry
That's the next step down. Another 5,000 dollars.
Descend and maintain 5,000 feet.
And I expect that after that we'll hear 4,600 as our next descent altitude, because we're supposed to be at 4,600 in POCIB, P-O-C-I-B. Zoom in here a little bit. I always forget this. Desert Southwest is no joke when it comes to mountains. Jesus Christ. Yikes. Ah. Oh boy. We're looking good though. Everything's really looking good. And you see the green lines now moving, and we're turning left to intercept. Excellent. You'll see the airport right out in front of us here in a second. Okay. And you see the green diamond now moving down. We're going to do our first notch of flaps, but first we'll do landing gear. Hop up in our seat. Here's the airport. We'll do Giffley, gear, inertial separator, flaps, which we'll do now, 1 notch. Fuel. Fuel looks okay, 24 left, 21 right. Lights. Landing lights activated, and yaw damper deactivated. Look.
Whiskey Bravo, you are 10 miles northwest of Tucson. Contact Tucson Tower on 118.3 when inbound on the approach.
18.3 dog, Whiskey Bravo.
Tower on 118.3.
Going to activate the approach at this point, okay? To continue our descent. It had leveled out 5,400 feet.
Whiskey Bravo, 10 miles northwest inbound ILS runway 11 left approach.
Airport elevation is 2,600 feet. We'll go ahead and enter that.
November 3, 43 Whiskey Bravo, Tucson Tower.
I'll actually set my...
Runway 11 left approach. Altimeter 29.83 wind 124 at 5.
29, what'd you say? 29 or what? 29er...
Cleared ILS runway 11 left approach, Conhertree Whiskey Bravo.
What'd you say the winds were? 124 at 5? How funny. That's exactly the heading we're taking. That's hilarious. Anyway, we are established on the glide slope right now. Everything looks really good. Really, really good. Zoom in a little bit more here. Slow us down just a little bit more there. Look at the sunlight. Wow. Knowledge master caution. Final notch of flaps here in just about 2 seconds. There we go. Glide slope is active. Your speed as usual. Following like a rock. Let's see if I can see any poppies or bossies. Not on this runway, but I do see one off to the on 11 right. Give me some information, but I really don't need it, and here's why. We have glide slope information on our PFD. That green diamond. Just keep that green diamond in between this white circle and that white circle. You do that, you're 3 degrees. That's what you want. Re-verify, reconfirm. 3 in the green, that referencing all 3 landing gear are down and locked. Airspeed's good, 83 knots.
Conhertree Whiskey Bravo, cleared to land runway 11 left.
Clear.
124 at 5.
Clear to land, 11 left. Darrow 3 Bravo. Good day.
Clear to land runway 11 left, Conhertree Whiskey Bravo.
Okay, everything looks really good. Winds are coming right at us at just 3 knots. Pleasant evening. Outside air temperature is 29 degrees though, kind of warm. Airspeed's 84 knots. Sure, check everything. So very, very good example today about how you need to be able to take over if something's going wrong. Not going wrong, but not adding up. Look at those cars on the freeway. That is so cool. God. Never been to Tucson. Anyway, I've set our approach altitude, our altitude selector at 4,000 feet. That's our missed approach altitude if we need to do a missed approach. Select our runway heading, synchronize. So missed approach is climb 4,000, right turn, climb to 6,000 at 300 degrees. Doesn't look like that's going to be an issue today, though. Pretty quiet here in Tucson. see an airplane on the ground there. 2 mile final. Runway 11 left. Airspeed's perfect. Reconfirm 3 in the green. I know I say that all the time, but... Right, we're going to go ahead and... boy, even the power lines. Look at that. Jesus. Oh, God. Okay, airspeed's perfect. Autopilot disengaged. I have the aircraft. Everything's looking rock solid here. 500 AGL. Settle down, girl. Everything's fine. TBM's got a lot of power under the horse, or a lot of horsepower under the hood there, so she gets kind of excited. There appears to be a vehicle crossing the runway threshold. I don't know if that'll show up or not, but I can see it. There's the middle marker indicator. Good. Dead center. Pretty night. Idle. Got ourselves a little bounce there. No need for reverse thrusters. Long runway. Almost 11,000 feet, if you can believe it.
Tree Whiskey, Bravo exit, runway when able.
Ooh, got some big boys out there.
Tree Whiskey, Bravo contact ground on ONE 24.4.
Tucson Tower, Tree Whiskey, Bravo. Say
All right.
again, please.
Say again, please. What? Where'd that come from?
Tree Whiskey, Bravo contact ground on ONE 24.4.
That's funny. I just did that. I never told it to do that. Acknowledge ground handoff.
124.4 for Tree Whiskey, Bravo.
Tucson ground and request taxi to parking.
Tucson ground, November.
Just realized I made that.
Whiskey, Bravo, request taxi to parking.
Just checking something here on my ForeFlight app.
November 34 Tree Whiskey, Bravo taxi to general aviation.
Okay, give me some ribbons, honey. Oh, that was my bad. So it looks like, what does that mean? Let's clean up our airplane while I'm thinking about it. Flaps are retracted. So what does that nightmare of an instruction that we just received mean? Well, I turned left off the runway, and which is fine. It's not as though it's a it was any sort of safety issue. Boy, look at that sunset. It's just that it appears as though general aviation parking is to the right on this. I'm sorry. I turned to the... Sorry, 1 second. Let's make sure nobody's coming in for a landing. Okay, anyway, as I was saying, we landed, okay, this way, and then I turned to the left. Whoops. Roger, hold position. Tower 3 Whiskey Bravo.
Whiskey Bravo, continue taxi.
Right. So, anyway,
Roger, Tree Whiskey, Bravo.
when we landed this way, right? I turned to the left. I should have turned to the right. But they're routing us accordingly. That's a non-issue. I didn't know that GA parking at Tucson was to the right on runway 1 of runway 11 left. Anyway, so little hiccup, not a big deal.
Playback request accepted.
Okay, so taxiing now to parking, and then we're
Approaching runway 11 right, 29 left.
and we're done.
Turn runway 11 right.
Make sure nobody's coming in on this runway either. No and no. Well, I felt like that was a pretty nice landing. I think we got a little bounce out of it, but nothing to cry about. Again, I have the difficulty settings at hard. Why is that important? Well, only to the extent that it helps me see that I landed within the safety envelope. Because if you have the difficulty set at hard and you land at an unsafe rate, it'll say you destroyed the aircraft. It'll just you get a black screen and it'll say you caused critical airframe damage. So that we were nowhere near anything remotely approximating a situation like that. One error, though, that I did make on this was not determining in advance where GA parking was. That was a mistake.
Tucson ground.
When I was on final, I looked
Requesting the end of pushback.
and I saw what appeared to me to be, anyway, to be the parking area off to the left, which is why I turned left on off the runway. But not a big deal. I'm spending too much time talking about a non-issue. All right, continue to steer with my feet. I see Gary over here. There he is. Sounds like there's some planes getting ready to take off.
Taxi to and hold short of runway 11 left using taxiway Alpha cross runway 21 Echo.
Make my right turn.
On 118 decimal tree when ready.
And find Gary. We'll conclude our half-hour episode of the ongoing adventures of Dire 3 Whiskey Bravo.
Taxiing hold short runway 11 left via taxiway Alpha cross runway 21 Echo Skywest tree 906.
Sometimes you don't need to follow these arrows quite so precisely. As you can see, we don't need to go over here. Let's go this way. There's Gary. Supposed to go a little bit right. Nice. Looks like we're pretty much lined up. Come on, Gary. Help me in. Okay. Here we go. Man. It's much trickier than it looks, friends. There we go. All right. Parking brake. Engine. Fuel cutoff. Pitot heat. Inertial separator all off. Depressurize. And get our lights off. That's it. Looks good. All right, so anyway, lessons learned from this flight is that to not freak out or worry about the fact that we had that weird approach that I mentioned. This would have just been stupid. To go this way, fly over the airport, turn around, it just didn't make sense. What we did was entirely consistent with ATC instructions. This wasn't me just sort of winging it. We were cleared direct to Lipty. We went direct to Lipty. So this would not have made sense to have done this. And the only reason this looks like this is because of a bug. It's just not how this approach would have been handled. But ATC in Sim gave us instructions to fly direct to Lipti, which was correct. And because we'd prepped in advance, at least in all respects other than knowing if we should turn left or right at parking, no big deal there. We knew what altitude we needed to be at Lipti, and the ATC told us we needed to be at 6,000 feet, 5,500, 5,000, and so forth. And we had pre-programmed in the ILS frequency, again, because I went to the approach plates. Have that stuff done before you need to start scrambling to find it, because that will complicate your life dramatically. But again, in weather like this, what a pretty night. I mean, good grief, honestly, just look at this. Is this not a beautiful evening in Tucson, Arizona? Never been. Look at that. Some other planes in the area. That's kind of fun. All right, that's it for now. We'll see where we head next, but that's it for now. I'm thinking west again, making our way back to John Wayne KSNA. But for now, that's all. Yeah, enjoy the flight, and we'll see where we head next. That's it for tonight.